Hi, Ann Cornick from Paintnporcelain here. I'm here to teach beginners how to get started in China painting. And today we're going to be working on violets. Now, I don't know what happened and how I missed violets. It's an obvious beginner's flower. But for some reason, we completely overlooked it. So today I'm making up for that and we're going to be doing violets. There's a tool for borders that I would share with you this week. And I found it. Actually, I have an old one and a new one. This is the newest one. It has clips up at this side with the dots down the middle. And if you flip it, it has two clips up at this side. And you can clip this on a large or a small plate, preferably a plain old plate like this. And you clip it on like that. I'm going to hold it for a minute because I always drop this. You're going to clip it on like that, and you're going to pick a hole for the depth that you want your border to be. I'm going to be working on a box. As you progress in China painting, you're going to go from a flat surface, most likely, to something that's curved. You're going to go to a mug, you're going to go to a box. You see how this top is curved? That can sometimes be tricky, not only to paint, but also to trace. And so what I do when I trace on something like this, now I did an original design and I worked on it on paper, and then when I finally got it the way I wanted it, I copied it, I scanned it into my printer, and then I had a lot of copies of it in case I screwed up one. And I cut the piece of paper the size of the lid. So you can see I cut it the same size as the lid. And I also cut the transfer paper the same size as the lid and put it on here. Now, for those of you that are watching for the first time, transfer paper has a light side and a dark side. The dark side's the side that you actually put on the china, like this, to trace. And then the light side faces the top piece of paper that you're going to be tracing. And if you sew, you know what I mean by this. In order to get this to fit on that rounded surface, I put a few cuts in it. You can see here. I put one there and one there and one there. And I'm going to then tape this onto my piece. And I'm going to match the first part of it right here. Then I'm going to tape this down, and then I'm going to make sure that this is flat and tape it down. And I may have to do an adjustment as I do that. Oops, I don't want this to stick to what we're going to be working on. And you can see in order to make the adjustment, I can just overlap them and then tape it down. And then this, when you go all the way around, you come to the last piece, which is this big open spot. And it gives you plenty of room if you need to adjust there. So this is just an idea. If you're going to be tracing a pattern onto a curved surface, this is one way of doing it, so you don't have to worry about having any problems tracing your pattern. You want the pattern and the transfer paper to lie flat so that you get a good tracing. Okay, and then the next thing that I did, of course, so you could see, is I took a Sharpie, and I used this to trace over the piece so that it won't move around. You know, this will dry. It's permanent marker. It will fire off, but it allows you to paint and not, get all messed up when you're painting. So, okay, I'm going to angle you down. Before I do, the colors we're going to be using are a pink, a light pink. Now, baby blue. I have two purples. You don't need both. I have a violet and a royal violet, but I use them interchangeably. I have a warm brown green, a mixing yellow, and a chartreuse. And if you don't have chartreuse, you could take your moss green and mix it with a little bit of yellow, and that would probably give you a lighter version of green. So use the colors that you have. This is just a suggestion. So I'm going to start with my biggest violet right here. And the reason I'm doing the leaves first is if you do the flowers first and then try to do the leaves, you're going to mess up your flowers, and they're a lighter color. So I'm going to do the leaves first with the darker color and then put the lighter color in there. And you can always wipe out a little bit from the leaf if you need to. Another thing about these leaves, these are violet leaves, is that, oh, and I made a drawing just so you could see. Violet leaves all come from the veins all come from the top, the main veins, and then there are little veins that run off of that. So if you're going to be putting your color in, you're going to want to put it in so that you, let me get a little more oil on here. Apparently you need a lot of oil for this tile. You're going to be putting it in so that the color mimics your veins a little bit. You're going to come down the center. Oops, can you see? That may not be the best thing to have that lighter light there. And then you're going to come back this way, kind of like we did on the last colors we did. Okay, and then you're going to do the edges. But that just gives you an idea. You kind of have to break up your background a little bit because of that. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing on here. I'm starting with this one here. Boy, oh boy, that light is right in the middle. Let me tilt it like this. This might be better. And I'm going to come down the middle. And you see how it broke up a little on the way down? That's not a bad thing. A lot of times that adds a little texture and a little color to them. And if you remember, these leaves are kind of a fuzzy leaf. So they're a nice little leaf to use to have a little bit of texture to them. Okay. And then I'm going to take that dark right up around that violet I have up there at the top. And I'm going to take it, this is the darker side. My light is coming this way across. So this is going to be, oh, I just said that, didn't I? That's not the darker side. This is the darker side. So that's where I'm going to go next. Once you establish where your light is coming from, you'll know which side of the leaf to make the darkest. And as you do the leaf, you don't have to trace the outside of that. You just have to put a little color there, and then you're going to hold your brush at the very end and just lightly feather it. That'll smooth it out a little bit, give you a nice look to it. And then the same thing over here. You're going to put a little bit of definition in there. And of course, these violets are over the leaf. So I'm going to have to put the darker color panels on there so you guys can see what I'm doing without having that ring light always in the middle of it. Let me turn it down a little. That may help. Okay. And we're going to do it over here too on this side. Okay. So that's my first leaf. I'm going to continue on. I'm going to do this one over here because it's it's a basic leaf. I didn't do anything fancy with it. But with this one, need a little more oil. Oh, well, I think I can do it with this size brush. I may have to downsize. I'm going to come down the middle of the leaf here. Remember, if you think I thought it was too harsh. If you think your colors are too harsh, one of the reasons that you have a tile nearby, you should have just a plain tile like this, is that you can test your colors on there before you get too far along on your piece. And I put a little dark right around that violet there. Okay. So you can see a little better there how that went. Now, this leaf down here, it's folded on itself. Right here. Can you see how that is? It folded on itself. This is the part of the leaf, and then the top is folded over. So I'm going to start with the bottom part of the leaf here, and I'm going to put color under that little cap that's folded down. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Put a little color under that cap. I'm full loading with chartreuse and I'm side loading with warm brown green. And I'm just going to put a little color down there, and then I'm going to put a little color at the end too. And you guys know what I'm going to say next. You have to leave a little bit of light here, here, here. The purpose of leaving light is so that you have a way of putting in highlights on the second and third fire. If you don't do it now, you won't be able to do it later. I'm just going to do the light on this side. So you see how I did the light on both sides there at the top, and I put a little dark underneath so that it looks like it's folding over, and if you think it needs a little more, you can always add a little more, okay? And this is the last leaf in the bunch. It's kind of doing the same thing. I'm going to clean my brush, and I am going to use a smaller brush now, because if I use my big brush through that whole thing, this itty bitty little guy at the bottom will be difficult. And this little guy, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to put the dark in here, right there. And then you're going to take the chartreuse and just do the top. And you may want to put a little more dark in, because that's what's going to define the edges of that top leaf. Okay, now these are all the violets in through here. This is a little poke of a violet. There's a little piece of one there, and there's some over on this side. They're kind of tiny, so I wanted to give you an idea of what I'm doing. You can use one of two colors. I kind of like using a pink, full loading with a pink, and using a little bit of purple on the side load, like the royal violet. And I made a big violet here so you can see it. And then I go through and just do that. And I've got the pink up at the top. And then I kind of take a little more pink and come back up and do the top. That's one way you can do it. And the reason you want a little color like a pink or a blue at this point, I think the reason I do it anyway, is because I think it adds a little extra depth as you paint. Now here it is with the blue on this side. You can use both colors, you don't have to. I'm going to use predominantly blue on this, and then after you do all of your little petals, you always kind of feather them in, and then you're going to come down here and do the base. Now, if you're a beginner, you can start with a full load of blue and just do the blue like this and feather it. There's my blue. And then you can side load with the purple and do the purple next. If that's easier for you, because they blend very well. If that's easier for you, then do it that way. And the same thing with the tops here. You can do the same thing. You can take a full load of pink and do the pink, and then do a side load of the purple and just do the purple in the inside part. Okay? So I just wanted to give you a larger sample so you could really see what I'm doing, because I know that these are awfully tiny and they're going to be hard to see. So we're going to start out. I'm going to do the blues on this time, I think. So yeah, let's do the easier way. Let's do a full load of blue. Oops, it's a little dark. If it's dark, wipe it off and just go back over it and you'll make it a little lighter. I think I'm going to side load the blue. My brush is a little large, but I don't really have any really good brushes for this kind of thing. Can you see what I'm doing there? The only problem with working on something other than a plate or a tile is that sometimes they're so tiny, they're really hard to see. Okay, and then I'm going to come down here. The center right here of this violet is going to be yellow, so you don't want to get up into the center. You just want to put a little blue here and a little blue here. Okay, that's the blue. Now I'm going to side load, and I'm using a violet or a royal violet, whatever you have at home. Violets and royal violets are very expensive, so I don't use them very often. And I'm just going to go and put, oops. We need a little more color, and we need a little more oil. Oh, hang on. I got something, dust or something, a huge hunk of it on my brush. You don't want to paint with that if you can help. Can you see what I did there? I'm going to put a little purple down here, a little purple right here, a little purple at the base, and then this one I'm going to pull up just a tad, or pull down just a tad, because there's kind of a line there. I'm going to do the same thing with the one next to it. I'm going to do a little purple here. And when I do this, I'm just touching in like this in there. Just touching it. And see how that gives you the purple? Right in the right spot. It's side loaded and I'm just touching it. These are relatively easy flowers for beginners to do. My biggest fear was that I was going to have a hard time holding it, but I'm really not having a hard time holding it. So now I'm going to leave a little bit of the blue on this flower right there, just so that it sort of stands out from the one next to it. In fact, I might even take my brush and wipe it back just a tad. There. Because the one underneath it is the darker one. And I can even go through and put a little more purple here. Okay. Remember I said not to though, because we're going to have, let me wipe it out a little. We're going to have a little bit of yellow there. Okay. All right. And the same thing now, these little guys over here I might do with pink. These little guys that are poking their nose out. And up here, I kind of overdid the pink, so let me clean it up a little. Can you see the pink on there? Yeah, I think you guys can. Okay. And then I'm going to take my purple. I'm not cleaning my brush in between because you're going to have pink on it anyway. And I'm just putting a little bit of purple at the base. It's very subtle. And I'll do the same thing with all of these. So let's do this little guy over here for a change. He's a little bit different. I'm going to do him with the blue. And I would say for a beginner, the best thing probably is to put your blue on completely. And then go back and add your purple. You don't have to clean your brush in between. The key is to draw them well. This is the one I just did over here. Now, on this one, it's going to have a little bit of green up on top. That's just the way they are. And I figured this is a good flower to do because they'll probably be coming out soon in the lawns in March. And if you hold off and do them then, you'll be able to bring some of them in and actually paint from them, which will be interesting. If you paint from a flower, I think you learn a lot more. I'm going to take a small brush. This is, oh geez, what is this? This is a 0. I'm just gonna do these little, they're like these little flitty things up on top. I'm just gonna paint them in. But I want to make sure that I paint them in so that I can see them real well. And then you can either use your brush. I'm sorry, I know you can't see what I'm doing there. Or you can use a liner like this, a little 00 liner, and put the stem in. You're going to have trouble seeing the stem if you trace it with the black. That's why I use the red tracing paper, because when I'm working on my own, the red tracing paper is much, much better. Okay? Okay, and up here I'm going to do a little bit too. You know what? This could stand a little more. As you look at things, you can correct them if you think they need something different. I think I'm going to make that leaf go all the way up there, so that's what I did. And then this guy over here, there's one of those little petals just floating there. I think I'll do that one in blue. Get a little blue on it. And then I'm going to do a little purple on it. Oh, let me turn it this way so that you always paint towards yourself. If you're new, this is critical that you always paint towards yourself. You get a nice smooth stroke if you do. And then over here, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to do blue, 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 blue. Think of the blue as the light on this. And then you're going to put the purple in as kind of a shadow. So there's the blue. And then you kind of wipe it off on your towel, go into your royal or whatever color you're using, and put it on. Need a little more. I think I need a little more oil. It's kind of dragging a little. I think you can see, I was afraid to go smaller than this with anything I was doing because I think it's hard to see and it's hard for me to hold up. But I think this you can see. I'm putting the purple now at the base, 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 and on this side, the base. Okay. So that's what I have so far. Then you're going to take, you're obviously going to finish all these, and it's exactly the same way we did this up here, so it shouldn't be difficult. You're going to take a small brush, either a liner or a 00. Okay, now I'm putting the yellow in the center, and then I want to show you something that I noticed on some of them. Okay, so there's the yellow. Now some people I've seen leave it like this, then they put like a red dot in the middle. And that's fine. Other people take their eraser and they do that. They do it's a little fatter near the top and a little thinner near the bottom. And they do that to separate it. Then they take a very fine brush like this little itty bitty nothing brush. It's like two hairs put together. And they actually dip it in either the purple or the black, and they do little whiskers down here like this. My violets here don't have these little white things on the sides. To me, that's more of a pansy. But they do have a little bit of this darker color up in here. I would wait till the second coat to do it on these. You know what? I'm going to use my liner. I think my liner will work better. You'll get to know your brushes the longer you use them, so my liner I think will work better here because I just want to do that. And I want to do this here. I'm using the brown green, the warm brown green, and I'm just... Oop. a little heavy, so I'm going to take a fatter brush and just clean it up like that. And then down here, I don't know, down here I might actually do a little more of the pink. Oh, I guess I got the blue. Do that down here. Yep, a little heavy. There's the blue on there. And then I'm going to go back, side load with the violet, and put the violet towards the center of these leaves, the little ones, where they come together. That's where you put them, these petals. You put it towards the center. And then on the bottom, the little apron, you put it along the bottom. Oops. Okay, and then you're going to have to go back with your itty bitty brush and a little mixing yellow and put that little center in. And in fact, if you have too much purple in there, you might want to wipe it out so you can put the center in, because you don't want the purple with it. It won't turn out. It won't look as nice. You want it to be fairly clear. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to finish off the rest of this exactly the same way. I'm not going to put any background on it. I am going to fire it. So we'll work on the second fire of our violets next time. Thanks for watching, everybody, and keep painting, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed the program, and I hope you'll take a minute to subscribe so that other people can learn more about China painting and we can get the word out to more people. You also can look at the links below. My Paintnporcelain.com website has a lot of freebies and printables for new and experienced painters, as well as studies, supplies, and even some of my hand-painted china. So thank you again, and I'll see you next time.